हेलो एवरीवन। वेलकम टू माय यूट्यूब चैनल द सोलफुल डायरी। आज के वीडियो में हम बात करेंगे मार्च पियर्सी की पोम अ वर्क ऑफ आर्टिफाइस के बारे में। बट पोम एंड पोएट के बारे में डिस्कस करने से पहले जान लेते हैं टाइटल का क्या मीनिंग है। जो टाइटल में वर्ड आर्टिफाइस यूज हुआ है वो हमारी अटेंशन ड्रॉ करता है टुवर्ड्स द इनसाइडर्स नेचर ऑफ पेट्रियार्की। द पोम critiques the traditional gender roles and expectations imposed on women and encourages them to break free from social constraints. It tries to establish the idea that the roles and expectations that the society imposes on women are a work of artifice. के बारे में डिस्कस करते हैं। मार्ज पियर्सी was born in Detroit, Michigan, into a working class family that had been hard hit by the Depression. Piercy was the first member of her family to attend college, winning a scholarship to attend the University of Michigan. She earned an MA from Northwestern University. During the 1960s, Piercy was an organizer in political movements like the Students for a Democratic Society and the movement against the war in Vietnam, engagement which has shaped her work in myriad ways. Perhaps most importantly, though, has been Pierce's sustained involvement with feminism, Marxism, and environmental thought. An extremely prolific writer, Pierce has published close to 20 books of poetry and close to 20 novels. Her novels generally address larger social concerns through sharply observed characters and brisk plot lines, though generally focused on issues such as class or culture and usually written from a feminist position. Piercy's novels have taken on a variety of guises, including historical, fictional, science, or speculative fiction novel He, She and It, published as Body of Glass in the UK, won that country's prestigious Arthur C. Clarke Award. An earlier novel of speculative fiction, Woman on the Edge of Time, has been credited as the first work of cyberpunk. Piercy's poetry frequently she writes a swift free verse shows the same commitment to the social and environmental issues that fill her novels. The Moon is Always Female is considered a classic text of feminist movement. Early Girl collects Piercy's earliest works and includes some unpublished poems. Of the autobiographical elements in her poetry, Piercy has said that although my major impulse to autobiography has played itself out in poems rather than in novels, I have never made a distinction in working up my work, own experience, and other people's. I imagine I speak for a constituency living and dead, and that I give utterance to energy, experience, insight, words flowing from many lives. I have always desired that my poems work for others to be of use is the title of one of my favorite poems and one of my best known books. Piercy's latest collections of poetry include The Crooked Inheritance, The Hunger Moon, New and Selected Poems, and Made in Detroit. Pierce has also written plays, several volumes of non-fiction and memoir, and has edited the anthology Early Ripe American Women's Poetry. Now, she has served as poetry editor of Ticken magazine in 1971. Pierce moved to Cape Cod, where she continues to live and work. Her husband, a novelist Ira Wood, run Leapfrog Press. पोम को इन डेप्थ स्टडी करने से पहले जान लेते हैं उसके कुछ की फीचर्स। द पोम अ वर्क ऑफ आर्टिफाइस was written in 1970. It is one of the early works of the American poet Marge Pierce. It was published in a collection called The Art of Blessing the Day. The poem describes a heart tree which has the potential to grow to an enormous height by nature is carefully pruned so that it becomes a bonsai miniature, a mere tiny version of its potential self. The small bonsai could have been a tall tree if it had not been pruned by the gardener and kept in an attractive pot. The gardener regularly trims its branches to ensure its safety in a pot. From the beginning, living creatures need to be pruned and kept beautiful. Like a bonsai tree, the growth of a woman is restricted by the norms of patriarchy. The poet uses the image of a bonsai tree to critique societal pressures that restrict and control individuals, particularly women. The poem opens with a striking contrast: a bonsai whose growth is restricted to a beautiful pot versus its natural potential to reach a great height. This immediately sets the stage for the poem's central theme: the limitations placed on individuals by societal expectations. The gardener's careful pruning symbolizes the controlling forces that shape people's lives. The gardener tells the tree that its nature is to be small and cozy. This manipulation reflects how societal expectations can distort our perception of ourselves and our potential. The poem further criticizes these limitations through references to societal practices that restrict women, like bound feet and crippled brain. The pressure placed on women to conform to a certain standard of beauty is also highlighted, suggesting a focus on appearance over a woman's full potential. Stanza 1. The bonsai tree in the attractive pot could have grown 80 feet tall on the side of a mountain till split by lightning. तो यहाँ पर पोएट हमें ये बता रही है कि अगर हम कि जो बॉन्साई ट्री है उसे एक गार्डन में एक अट्रैक्टिव पॉट में रखा गया, बट अगर हमें ने ट्री को नेचुरली ग्रो करने दिया होता उसके नेचुरल इन्वायरमेंट में, तो वो 80 फीट टॉल होता। मतलब अगर वो माउंटेन साइड के अलोंग ग्रो कर रहा होता तो वो 80 फीट टॉल होता, फुल होता, हाइट में होता, फुल लेंथ में होता, बट वो ईजिली ब्रेक भी नहीं होता, एंड इट कुड हैव ओनली broken down when a lightning would have struck the tree. Stanza 2. But a gardener carefully pruned it. It is 9 inches high. Every day as he whittles back the branches, the gardener croons. और जो गार्डनर होता है वो कभी बॉन्साई ट्री को उसके नेचुरली ग्रो नहीं करने देता है, उसको केयरफुली ट्रिम करता रहता है, उसको 9 इंचेस से ज़्यादा कभी बढ़ने नहीं देता। और जब वो गार्डनर ट्रिम कर रहा होता है बॉन्साई ट्री को तो वो सॉफ्टली सिंग भी कर रहा होता है। Stanza 3. It is your nature to be small and cozy, domestic and weak. How lucky little tree to have a pot to grow in. तो गार्डनर जो है वहाँ पे सिंग करते हुए कह रहे हैं नेचर ने जो है वो बॉन्साई ट्री को स्मॉल और वीक बनाया है और वो सिर्फ इंडोर में ग्रो कर सकता है। और जो ट्री है उसे अपने आप को लकी और फॉर्चुनेट समझना चाहिए, क्यों? क्योंकि उसके पास एक अट्रैक्टिव सपोर्ट है और गार्डन है जहाँ पर वो ग्रो कर रहा है। Stanza 4. With living creatures, one must begin very early to dwarf their growth. Restrictions must be imposed on living beings in their early stages to stop them from growing to their full potential. This stanza broadens the poem's metaphor beyond just the bonsai tree. It suggests that the act of restricting and controlling growth is applied widely to living things, not just plants. This could refer to humans or animals trained for specific purposes or any living being on this planet. Stanza 5. The bound feet, the crippled brain, the hair in colors, the hands you love to touch. Like a tree, a woman from a very young age is kept in control. Here, the poet gives examples of how their growth is hampered by binding their feet, brainwashing them, and putting their hair in colors. In the last line, the poet likely scolds the gardener for destroying what he loves to touch. Bound feet is a historical reference to a practice in China where young girls' feet were bound to restrict their growth. Poetic devices metaphor. A metaphor is a figure of speech that is used to make a comparison without using words like or as. A bonsai tree is a metaphor for women who face inequality, discrimination, and oppression. The poet uses this to express that women have vast potential to grow and accomplish large things but fail to do so as a result of the manipulations and suppression. Personification, a figure of speech in which abstract ideas are invested with personality, and both inanimate and abstract ideas are endowed with the attributes of living beings. The poet gives human attributes to a bonsai by using words such as brain and hair. Apostrophe is a figure of speech in which a speaker directly addresses someone or something that is not present cannot respond in reality. The poet makes use of an apostrophe as the gardener addresses both women and the tree. By doing so, Pierce emphasizes the way society directly or indirectly prevents women from reaching their full potential. She uses the word the bound feet, the crippled brain, the hair and colors, the hands you love to touch, symbolism. Symbolism is the use of symbols to represent idea or qualities. Bonsai tree represents the individual restricted by societal expectation. Gardener represents societal forces that control and shape individuals. Pot represents the limitation placed on the individual's potential. Bound feet, crippled brain, hair, and colors, these symbolize specific societal practices that restrict individual growth, particularly for women. Irony. The gardener's word, it is your nature to be small and cozy. How lucky, little tree, are laced with irony. He justifies the limitations as the tree's natural state, while the reader understands it's an imposed condition, illusion. The illusions, that is the reference to other works or culture to allude to the restrictions imposed on women to curb their growth and potential. Pound feet is an allusion to the pre-revolutionary Chinese practice of binding women's feet, as small feet were considered as a symbol of beauty. Themes: Suppression of women. The poem was composed at the height of the American feminist movement in the 1970s. The bonsai tree in the poem is a potent symbol and represents suppression of women. The poem opens with what could be the true potential of a tree as a unwidely 80 feet tall tree on a mountainside that could be damaged only by lightning, but women are likely to have a pot and grow to a height of a mere 9 inches. The poem is truly about how women are confined into their predetermined domestic role. It's not just the size of the tree that the gardener trims, but its natural habitat as well. A small bonsai tree in an attractive pot encourages the belief that women are desirable when they're pretty, delicate, and domestic. This conditioning begins very early by their feet being bound, thoughts being manipulated, and hair and colors. It represents the oppression of women, their inability to grow, and how society has kept them tied to customs, preventing them from achieving their full potential. Manipulation and control. The gardener's act of carefully pruning the tree represents the manipulative ways in which society shapes and controls individuals. The gardener justifies these limitations as beneficial, creating a false narrative about the tree's nature. This very concept of a bonsai tree is an example of manipulating nature to create a desired aesthetic. This parallels the way women are pressured to conform to unrealistic beauty standards. थैंक यू। आई होप आज की वीडियो आपको अच्छी लगी। कैसी लगी हमें कमेंट करके बताएं। और अगर अच्छी लगी तो लाइक शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब टू माई चैनल। और आप आने वाली वीडियोस में क्या देखना चाहते हैं हमें कमेंट करके ज़रूर बताएं। मिलते हैं कल एक और इन्फॉर्मेटिव वीडियो के साथ शाम 4 बजे।